Hello and welcome to round 3 of the Really Rubbish Racing V8 Australicars Championship, and this is the one we've all been waiting for, the first endurance race of the season at the famous Mount Panorama circuit. It's the Bathurst Hour of Power. Joining me once again is Tom Brooks.
Hi there, Nick. Thank you very much. Lovely to be back. Lovely to be commentating on the V8 Australicars series. As you mentioned, the hour-long endurance race, just one of 2 on the calendar. And this circuit, the Mount Panorama circuit, comprises of 20 corners over 3.84 miles, 6.21 kilometres. 30 laps we're expecting, with 23 cars taking to the grid. And Nick, I think, given the tight sections in this circuit and the narrow nature of the track as well, especially, we're in for some fireworks come the race.
Yes, there's certainly going to be some very close action. And here are the championship standings. Sam Harani, our reigning champion, still leads going into round 5 of 14, but he's only got 5-point margin over Ollie Knight, who had a terrific round last time out, winning both races. Pete Walker, the championship leader from the first round, still hanging in there, but it's 10 points behind, slipping away slightly. April Dillon very close there as well. Great showing by the newcomer.
Yeah, it has been a great induction into the championship for April Dillon, also showing that Howler Racing could be a force to be reckoned with for the season as well, and looking strong for next season as well. So they've really had a great, like I say, induction into the V8 Australicars Championship, and long may it continue.
Certainly so. And here's Sam Harani, who's going to be a pole sitter for today. Take us through the laps on.
Yes, so the Mount Panorama circuit, as I mentioned, comprises of 20 corners, and here's Sam Harani coming into the first one, the 90-degree left-hander of Hell Corner. Then in he comes, 70 miles an hour through there, second gear, running out to the right-hand side, and then you're on to the mountain straight before the quarry bend. There's a relatively flat straight before the latter part of it, where you go downhill and then head into the uphill section of turn 3. So here we are then downhill with Sam Harani touching 150 or so miles an hour before braking down into about third gear, still going through there at 100 miles an hour. Can't see the exit, really does separate from the men from the boys in this case. Swings it over to the right hand side, up towards the cutting, uphill into the left hander, and then into this very, very tight left hander as well. So through there he goes and manages to run it out very nicely. 85 miles an hour through there, runs it out to the latter part of the track, through the right and the left, coming in towards the S's section then. So downhill in towards this left-hander, flat out through their fifth gear, a little bit of a left mid-corner, but still showing that the car has got the grip and the pace that Sam would like. So through the left-hander then, on towards, or down towards the S's section, they swing it over to the left and then the right. This is such a tricky part of the track. Still going through there in second gear at 80 miles an hour is Harani, as he comes up towards a back marker then of Ben Haddleton. So in towards the dipper then, very difficult part of the track before you head towards the Forest's Elbow. So he's coming down then on towards the Conrod straight before the chase. He's going to use the slipstream of the car in front of him is Harani then. So he's touching about 160 miles an hour. He'll be touching 170 for the flat-out right-hander of the chase into that section. So using the slipstream perfectly and times the move just right. So swings it up the inside, heads it, keeps it right before the left-handed and right-handed chicane through here. Down into second gear, 70 miles an hour through the right-hander, and runs it out very, very nicely on the exit before heading to the final corner of Murrayson. Fifth gear, braking down into about second gear once again, 75, 60 miles an hour. Runs it out very wide out of the final corner, and then will cross the line to set pole position with a 1:58.4 for Sam Harani of the Offenders.
Well, making one of the trickiest laps of the year look like absolute doddle is Sam Harani. And Ollie Knight is joining him around the second row, so the 2 championship leaders are going to be starting side by side. Manuel de Samaniego, another great qualifying effort by him. Lee Harrison of Defenders in 5th. Alex O'Dowd's a great qualifying performance by him up in 6th. One lap paces, and he's usually his forte. We see him much better during the race itself. Jamie Hunt, that's the season best qualifying there of 8th. Joined slightly behind him is Bjorn Golder for Scuderia Cello in 9th. The second junior motorsport car, Tom White, nowhere near his teammate there, 1.7 seconds off the pole pace of Sam Harani. And then we have April Dillon, again someone who we see usually do much better in the racing qualifying. She'll be starting 13th. Starting right behind her will be Campbell Wallace there in 15th. Tom Kowalski, a newcomer for Team Atom, there is in 17th position. Not a bad starting position at all for a first-timer. Joined by the usual suspects, Neil Crawford and Rob Covey. Pete Walker there, not a very good qualifying session for him, starting a very low 20th position, and joined at the rear by Dave Morley and Ben Hanson in the back. And it's going to be a rolling start. Take us there, Tom.
So there we are, the 5 red lights are on. We're waiting for the race start then here at Mount Panorama. Sam Hirani on the right, Ollie Knight on the left-hand side of the grid. The lights go green and we are underway here at Mount Panorama. Hirani moves to defend from Ollie Knight to Sam Yengo up the inside of Bryce Harper. Oh, loses on the apex, and Bryce Harper going all the way around and spinning down towards the back of the grid. A terrible start there for the offender's driver, but to Sam Yengo, I think, yes he does, just hold on to 3rd position after that impact, but he's being challenged by Alex O'Dell as the cars come downhill heading towards turn 3, and also Lee Harrison coming at the inside of the Sam Yengo now as well. So on the inside they go. Oh, Campbell Wallace also going round into turn 3, manages to gather things up, and I think Tom Kowalski also caught up in impact there, and that I believe is Tom White it is. So number 25 and Ben Hamilton also going round, all kicking off on the first lap. There's Jamie Hunt defending, running so down to Sam Yengo going round now as well. The Valor Racing Team driver, the number 6, spinning down the order into about 14th position, and just collated there by Niall O'Connell as the cars come down, but it's Sam Hirani comfortably out in front ahead of Ollie Knight here on lap 1, Nick. What a start! What
a start indeed, and now here is Jamie Hunt on the back of Lee Harrison, just sweeping round, trying to look, see if he can get anywhere by, but not really. Alex O'Dell clean straight over the grass there. These cars are really working hard on this first lap. Of course, they're full to the brim full of fuel, but their tyres will be not quite at the peak temperature yet, but with peak lives, of course, so a lot of different variables for the drive. Oh, Alex O'Dell spun round. He is spinning around, and Tom, sorry, that's Ollie Knight there joining him as well. So the 2nd place man, Ollie Knight, spins down the order, down into 10th position for the number 21. What a start! And here we are, we see April Dillon of the Howler Racing Team. We mentioned her in the pre-season discussion. She is now challenging, that's Pete Walker there of the Power Team, for 10th position. Start. So Pete Walker has made a blinding start, then up into 10th. Yeah, I mean, he's made 10 places up. Well, if anyone is going to pick their way through the field, it's Pete Walker, usually so calm and collected in the first lap. And it's amazing, really, how tight the circuit was. Oh, and there's... Who's that? It's Cooper's off in there. Ben Cooper, isn't it? Yeah. The Monolith Motorsport going round, so a terrible shame for him, but he'll manage to gather things up once again. But look at Tom Bellingham then really having to defend from Joe Nathan at the opening stages. So I believe Tom Bellingham must not have the pace on the opening stages, and it looks like Joe Nathan's going to launch a move up the inside, but Bellingham, very neatly parted on the apex. Yeah, very impressive defensive driving from Bellingham through Hell Corner and heading onto the mountain straight once again. So Bellingham there doesn't look to have the pace. He does take his normal racing line, so not having to defend as much on the straight as you might imagine. Further back down the order though, here we see April Dillon then challenging Pete Walker now for 7th position. So Walker up into 7th, as you mentioned, they made about 10 places on the start. So these guys really are battling for some decent points as Pete Walker spins round as I say that. Oh, and I think that must be Ollie Knight there caught up in the impact with Craig Willard spinning round again. And Ben Cooper also caught up in there. Goodness gracious me, impact of plenty then. So cars all together in the pit lane. We see Niall O'Connell, one of the Howler Racing Team cars, in there as well. So the battle for 2nd position though does continue on. I'm not going to have enough time to get my breath back at this rate. Lee Harrison and Jamie Hunt going hammer and tong for 2nd position. They're flat out through there. Goodness gracious me, heading downhill towards the S's for the 2nd time they go. No holds barred between these two. Really are absolutely flat out. Look at the way they're moving those cars around and showing that they've got so much grip and so much confidence in the cars underneath them at these early stages in the race, Nick. Yeah, just look at Jamie Hunt's car is rotating perfectly around the nose, around the front bumper. Just seems to be able to carry so much more speed in there. And there's Craig Willard, who's already been in the pits, and I think he's lost his bumper. He's without a bumper, isn't it? Yes, he has. Oh dear, so that must be from the impact that he was caught up in earlier on in lap 2. So a terrible shame there. Tom White also caught up in the incident as well. I remarked it as Ollie Knight earlier, who I mistook him for. I don't think it was Ollie Knight. I think it was Tom White who was caught up in that incident though. Or was it indeed? But he's going now. So it doesn't look like White is carrying too much damage if he was caught up in an impact. But his position on the track would suggest that he was. Anyway, he's got Dave Morley behind him as well, and one of the Howler Racing cars close behind them. And here we are then crossing on board with April Dillon and the other Howler Racing car, challenging Bjorn Golder then of the Scuderia Uccello team. We didn't see the Scuderia Uccello team challenging that much last time out. They were more sort of spinning around in circles than challenging for position, I'm afraid, in Eastern Creek. But round 3 at Bathurst, Bjorn Golder really does seem to have found his mojo. Yes, and he's putting his car perfectly, so April Dillon has no real chance to get around him just yet, but she's going to tuck into the slipstream, see what she can do. Joe Nathan is still stuck behind Tom Bellingham. He's not quite under threat into this corner, but he can't afford to become too complacent, otherwise Joe Nathan is going to be right on the back of him. And of course, no, he has gone wide there, and Joe Nathan's chance surely here if he can just duck underneath, but no, he cuts back underneath, and Tom Bellingham lives to fight another day.
He does. It's very much one at a time through this sort of a section, though, really, unless the driver makes a very critical error, such as we saw Tom Bellingham, but he did manage to gather it up in the latter part of it. It is very much one at a time through there, so I shouldn't imagine that Joe Nathan will be getting past until the latter part of the lap then. I should imagine probably on the Conville straight in toward the chase is probably one of the prime overtaking spots we're expecting for the race then. But we see then we've got some good straight line speed has Joe Nathan then, and got some good confidence through the corners as well. Tom Bellingham seems to be struggling somewhat, maybe struggling to get his tyres up to temperature, or just struggling with grip at the early stages of the race. But the tyres have been wearing relatively easy. We were expecting pit stops on around about lap 15, lap 16, so midway through the race as expected. And I shouldn't imagine that any drivers will probably gamble on going a full race distance, as we saw with Sam Hirani last time out.
No, that would be interesting. We saw that Tom Bellingham's car was sparking there, so it looks like he's gone for a very low ride height, which would explain why he's so unsettled through those dipping corners in the S's.
Yeah, so maybe he's struggling with that at this stage of the race. Of course, the lower the ride height, although it does technically improve handling, can increase understeer as well. It does have a tendency to do so. Understeer not a problem, though, for April Dillon at the moment. She is firmly glued to the back of Bjorn Golder, and also Ollie Knight there very close behind as well. But here's Joe Nathan up the inside of Bellingham in towards Murray's corner. Does he manage to get the position? The number 26 does get ahead of Bellingham then, the number 33 of the Independables car. Is Bellingham, though, going to fight straight back? No, I don't think so. Slots back into the slipstream once again, and I think down the mountain straight is where Bellingham will look to gain an advantage back on Joe Nathan, but I don't think he's going to be able to have the advantage at the moment. The car's further back, though. Bjorn Golder, Ollie Knight there caught up in it as well. I'm getting as confused as we were the other day. Anyway, getting back to it, number 21 on board with Ollie Knight then in 8th position, challenging for 7th, just behind one of the drivers there. So uphill in towards Quarry Bend they go once again, and they're very, very close together on circuit. And Bjorn Golder there doing some very good defensive driving just ahead of April Dillon at the moment, so he's showing that he can hold his own, especially when under pressure.
Ollie Knight's going to be able to capitalise on that, and of course Alex Odell is right behind this lot, so he's got to worry about him as well. It's just catching up a little bit. You can see the slightly different styles there between Ollie Knight and April Dillon. Ollie Knight obviously qualified second, so he's got a bit more pace in hands, can take the corners a little bit quicker, slightly tight lines through the S's there, but Alex Odell really is right on the back of his bumper now.
He is, and I'm very impressed by the way of James Price Harper. He was down at the back of the field as we saw his incident at turn 1 on lap 1 as well. He was caught up in that, but has got his way up to 11th position only on lap 4, so he's really got some pace behind him in the Holden.
Yeah, it's a shame to see James Price Harper yet again have something happen to him very early on in the race, and he could really be leading this championship in an alternate universe where things went a little bit better for him. Now April Dillon's right in the slipstream there, Bjorn Golder. Is she going to sweep around and have a little look into this corner, or is she going to bide her time and wait for a more opportune moment?
I think that April Dillon will probably know better than that. Though she's a newcomer to the championship, she's certainly not a newcomer to sim racing, and has certainly displayed that she can hold her own amongst the more experienced racers in the Really Rubbish Racing series in the field. Ollie Knight there looking up the inside of April Dillon, potentially launching a move. No, not quite. Here's the battle though continuing for second position. Jamie Hunt still trying to get ahead of Lee Harrison then, so this battle still continues onwards, but this battle further down the field, Ollie Knight, April Dillon, Bjorn Golder just ahead of them as well, and don't forget about Tom Bellingham very close up in front as well. So the battle, as far as the eye can see, for 6th position is still raging on, and very strongly as well, contending currently with about 3 or 4 cars.
Yeah, so Jay Nathan looks to have won that battle between him and Bellingham, settled it very nicely. Bellingham now slipping back into the clutches of this little battle here, and it's going to be holding up Bjorn Golder anytime soon, so if he does come up to him quickly, he's going to want to make that pass, otherwise April Dillon will be there to pounce. And Ollie Knight just having a little look through there.
No, very deep on the brakes as well. He's got so much corner speed into there. I couldn't believe how much he was taking through the cutting. Really does demonstrate the sort of confident front end on there. But Alex Odell has also got some very good traction out of there, taking advantage of Ollie Knight losing the corner speed due to going a little bit wide. And he's challenging now for 8th position with Ollie Knight there, the current series leader at the moment then. So they're very, very close on circuit, these two. And Ollie Knight has really should be probably leading this race bar his mistake, because he had some very, very strong pace. But as April Dillon there getting very sideways, that's about as close as that has let them through. So Alex O'Dell and Ollie Knight go ahead. So here we are having a look at the replay. And this is Lee Harrison we're on board with at the race start, and he goes into the side of the Samaniego. That sends Bryce Harper round. We didn't see that on board. I thought it might have been the Samaniego's fault. Apologies there, Manuel. Wasn't quite his fault. And there's the instant there into turn 3. Ben Cooper there just punting. Tom White going round there, and some further action further down the field. Sam Hirani we're on board with. Then later on in the lap, and that's Ollie Knight going around. He just lost it all on his own. Goodness gracious me. And then we see further on in the race, Craig Willott there getting caught. Oh dear, goodness gracious me. You don't want to be getting caught up in that one too much. But there's, we see Ollie Knight then challenging to defend from Alex O'Dell, and also one of the Howler Racing cars.
Dylan's cut back underneath.
Yes, she has. So she's getting very, very feisty. Is she going to be able to outbrake Knight in towards the Murray corner? No, she's not. But I'm sure she's going to have the slipstream. But O'Dell has got some very good traction out of there. Goodness gracious, it's three cars battling on for position at the moment. So O'Dell and Dillon side by side in towards Hell Corner once again. They're very, very close on circuit. The brakes are glowing red. They're coming out of there, but Dillon reigning supreme on board, then crossing back to the battle for second position with Lee Harrison and Jamie Hunt in towards Corey Bend. And Jamie Hunt does manage to finally get ahead of Lee Harrison. Cracking move there for the Young Offenders driver on his N-Team's teammate.
Yeah, I know how Harrison must be feeling, because in another series, in another lifetime, Hunt performed the exact same manoeuvre on me into a very similar corner, the second corner at Sonoma. So I know exactly what he's capable of in doing things like that, and he just left the door open, saw Harris. Well, he didn't really have a choice because they're side by side. So, but he gave Hunt the opportunity, and when that happens, he's going to take it and he's going to punish you for it.
Certainly is. This battle, though, continuing further on down the field, as we mentioned, currently fighting for 8th position. April Dillon and Alex O'Dell. They're so close. I can't believe how close they're racing without there being a bit of contact. O'Dell spotting his braking points absolutely perfectly, not managing to get too close to Dillon, and I think he's just going to force her into a gradual mistake. And I think O'Dell is very wise. He's got a lot of experience in this championship as well. He's competed a lot of races and had a lot of victories as well along the way, and he'll know as good as anyone that just biding your time, especially in these sort of hour-long endurance races, it's an endurance, as we know, not a sprint, so it's a case of biding your time and just positioning the car perfectly and trying to force the other driver into going off. James Bryce Harper then of the Offenders currently up into 11th position. It's a great running there from the Offenders driver.
Yeah, a display of exactly what you were talking about there just there. Even though he had the early incident, he just bided his time, he's not made any more silly mistakes, and now he's in the very low points paying positions, and he's going to look to get into the top 10 now.
I really thought he was struggling with some damage on his car given the clout he took into the wall, but doesn't look to do so at the moment. Here's the battle, a position behind them then for 12th position, Dave Morley and Neil Crawford. Monolith Motorsports versus the Daikobitsu Racing cars then side by side through the chase. Dave Morley then outbrakes Neil Crawford going into the left hand and right hand chicane. Rob Copley very close behind these two as well, currently on lap 7 out of 30, so about 7 or 8 laps away from the pit stops we're expecting then. Sam Hirani currently leading ahead of Jamie Hunt. 11 seconds is the gap. Lee Harrison in 3rd, Joe Nathan in 4th, and Tom Bellingham in 5th position. This battle, though, carrying on for the lower point in the top 10. Alex O'Dell and April Dillon, these guys, you cannot split them up on circuit. O'Dell, is he going to drive clean around the outside? Yes, he is. Great move there outside of Quarry. Alex O'Dell moves up into 8th position, does the number 23. What an inspired move there. What a great overtake as well from the 30-year-old now he is as well, isn't he? Is O'Dell. So he's one of the senior statesmen, I would probably hesitate to call him in the championship. No, I don't think he will. I'll get a slap on the wrist for that later. But we'll carry on with the action and move on swiftly from that. Hopefully he won't pick up on that. Anyway, looking at Neil Crawford then, who's currently battling with Dave Morley just ahead of him, and on board then with Crawford then, the 222. Great shot, look at this. Really does display the elevation changes and the narrowness of the Mount Panorama circuit, Nick.
Just really don't have any time to breathe. There is a rhythm, but no two corners exactly alike, so you can't really sort of go on autopilot. You really do have to concentrate on where you're going and get yourself into the groove. Look how much speed there into the braking zones. Just closing very slow. Ooh, just a little scribbly out there. Of course, some of the wheels coming off the ground almost, you'd think there.
Those cars are so stiffly sprung that actually is not as irregular of an occurrence as one might think. We'll go back to that later, because look, there's a bit of a spin there. Rob Covey going round just behind Neil Crawford there, who we were on board with, and Covey manages to find reverse gear and spin things back around and get things facing the right way and maintains his 14th position. But as I was mentioning, the car's very stiffly sprung, and it is actually quite a regular occurrence to see the cars just dipping a wheel off the tarmac, though it normally is the front wheels as opposed to the rear wheel, so they still maintain two-wheel drive. Anyway, crossing back to the action, James Bryce-Harper currently challenging Tom White then for the top 10 position. So James Bryce-Harper trying to crack his way into there. Tom White had something of a quiet race bar his incident in the opening stages, but he's still providing consistent pace. But James Bryce-Harper, as I mentioned, not suffering any damage on his Holden, and has really demonstrated that he can battle it, or his pace is relevant to that of the front runners of Hirani and Harrison.
Yes, but he just still can't find a way past Tom White. Of course, you have to get very early in the morning to get past Tom White. He's not a silly racer. He's not one that's going to be scared by any little tricks you train yourself in his mirrors. And look at this wonderful overhead shot here from the helicopter. Really does show not just the elevations of this circuit, but also the sheer scale of it.
It really does. It's quite. I could look at that all day, I think, Nick. Honestly, that's fantastic, isn't it? So going down in towards, or heading towards the S's once again. And look at this. If we can stay with this shot through the S's, I'll be very, very impressed, because it will definitely demonstrate how tight that section is in relevance. And we are going to stay on it through the S's, I do believe. So heading in towards this section, look how tight it is through there. Goodness gracious me. You do have to be a very, very brave driver and take your pills early in the morning to be able to take that one flat out, lap after lap, 30 times in a race, of course, and qualifying and practice as well. But Bryce-Harper losing a bit through the S's, but not as much to drop him further back than he might like from Tom White. So he's still fairly close in contention for the top 10 position, is Bryce-Harper, and he's got a good slipstream run in towards the chase once again, but I don't think he's going to be able to utilise it, or is he? Because Tom White there goes very, very defensive, crosses across the line, but here we are then, James Bryce-Harper maybe up the inside into the chase, and Tom White just parks it very firmly on the apex, says there's no way through there, but James Bryce-Harper, you can see by the amount of track that he's using, he is pushing very, very hard before his pit stop, and I do believe he might have pitted due to repairing some damage, so that's why we might not see him with as much damage, but he's getting very squirrely out of Murray's corner once again there, Nick.
Yeah, and I thought he was going to send one down the inside there, because he's spent enough laps behind him. That's sort of the point where in a racer's mind you think, right, I'm not going to get by him just by waiting here, I'm going to have to try and force the issue, but it sort of seemed to shy away from the reeve. But here is Sam Hirani, we're on board, we haven't really seen much of him. We don't usually see much of him when he's in the lead, because he just streaks off to the distance, and we don't really see much of him until the checkered flag. And just faultless driving here, a little bumpy. It might seem like he's a bit erratic, but that is actually the quickest way to take these corners. And Bellingham's gone wide there, and Gold is going to go through, and I think Knight is going to take advantage of this as well.
He certainly is. So Bellingham dropping down the order like a fly. So that is Bjorn Golder then up into 4th position, Bellingham down to 5th, and then Ollie Knight in 6th position. Then currently slots it up the inside, does Knight? No, he doesn't, because Bellingham cuts firmly across the line, heading in towards the S's once again, and displaying that even though he's made a mistake, he's certainly not willing to give up another position.
Certainly not, and you can see there's a big dent in the side of his car, so that obviously must have been caused by something locking his front wheel up there.
The outside front as well. Oh dear! Oh, he does get a very out of shape through there, and that is going to allow Knight surely to close up. It does indeed, on towards the Conrod Straight once again. He's going to have the slipstream advantage though of Bjorn Golder. Heading in towards the chase once again. Ollie Knight we're on board with, currently in 7th position, the number 21 in the slipstream of Tom Bellingham up the inside into the chase. No, I think he's going to go for the outside line and launch a move up the inside into the left-hander, but no, Tom Bellingham there out-braking Ollie Knight, who, that's a very brave move, but Knight, Tom Bellingham spins it round. Oh no! Terry, the Independables driver, just losing traction after going wide out of there and spinning further down the order for the Independables driver. And Dan Thorne, we haven't actually mentioned, he hasn't featured much in this race. Dan Thorne currently fairly far down the order, I do believe, which is a bit of a shame for the Independables team, not having such a good run at Bathurst at the moment.
No, Dan Thorne hasn't really taken to his cars very well. Tom Bellingham's leading the way wouldn't have been seen. This is what happened to
Oh, dear.
it just overcorrected and clipped the inside wall.
I think it might be. I think it might be a case if he lost traction and then spun the rear wheels up, the car gained traction and he just went straight into the barrier, which is not what you want to be doing, especially in these cars. They've got about 600 horsepower going to the rear wheels, and that is quite a challenge for.
And then he made his mistake.
There it is, yeah. So just going through there, but as I mentioned, 600 horsepower going to the rear wheels, and it's a challenge for the professional drivers, let alone anyone else. So they are quite the beasts to tame. But Lee Harrison, he's taming them very, very well for the Defenders team. A very striking livery with the Spider-Man colours on his wagon, and is maintaining second place very, very well. Jamie Hunt, though, is out of the race as well.
Yeah, he must have
retired. Here we are then.
Oh, we're going to see
have
why.
a look. So just spins it out there into the barrier.
No.
Some terminal damage there for Jamie Hunt. Oh dear, oh dear, the number 16 just too eager onto the power, and that must have caused some terminal suspension damage for the Young Offenders driver. So his teammate Tom Brooks, who isn't featuring in this race as well, will not be best pleased, or not be best pleased, of course, the Young Offenders team, because they have not yet, or they are yet rather, I believe, to score any points on the board at the moment.
Yeah, so Jamie's running so well there, Jamie Hunt, and looks like he just went straight. Of course, he's a front-engine car, so we really don't want a massive impact on the front. That is indeed what happened. Just lost it coming out of that corner there and just went straight into the pit wall. It's quite odd to see it's just such a severe reaction to spinning up your tyres just out of that corner, and he launched, but he just gave it a great big whack and launched straight there. Obviously, a few people on the pit wall would have had to shy away from the impact, otherwise it might have had a few bits of debris come their way. But Ollie Knight is now on the back of Bjorn Golder.
Fourth position as well. Goodness gracious, mate.
Yeah, just outside the podium positions now, of course, with Jamie Hunt having retired.
Yeah, so Bjorn Golder there could be in contention maybe to take a podium bar if anything goes wrong for the drivers ahead of him. But the Scuderia Uccello driver demonstrating he's got some fantastic pace and definitely consistency as well. He's stayed out of trouble, has Golder, not got caught up in any incident during the race, and just kept very quiet and kept his lines and kept his wits about him as well, and is now defending from Ollie Knight then of the Junior Motorsport team. So in towards Quarry Bend they go once again, and I'm extremely impressed there with Golder, the Swedish driver. I think he is the only Swedish driver in the. He is indeed the only Swedish driver in the field. But Ollie Knight, they go very, very deep in towards the cutting. So he's taking a lot of corner speed, a lot of entry speed into there. That will hurt his front tyres, but they are coming into the pit stop window. So lap 15, lap 16, as we mentioned, is when we're expecting pit stops to start taking place regularly. But it is where, of course, the drivers will start to push a bit more. They'll sort of think, oh, I'm coming to the end of my stint now. I'm going to be putting on a new set of boots, and if they've got some tyre life left, they might be just utilising it a bit more, as we can see Ollie Knight doing. Bjorn Golder there really parking it on the apex through the dipper then, and heading down through in towards the Forest Elbow once again.
Yeah, Bjorn Golder's just taking it very easy for this section, knowing that Ollie Knight really has no way of getting by him through there. So maybe a tactical thing. His tyres gone off a little earlier, so he's going to save a bit of life so he can use his tyres to the maximum effect through these very fast corners. But it looks like Ollie Knight is going to be in the slipstream here. He's tucked right underneath. He's not making too much headway, actually. He seems to just be sticking with him rather than actually gaining too much speed. Bjorn Golder must have quite a low downforce setting there and maybe set up his gears to the maximum. In fact, Ollie Knight just has a little bit tucked straight back in there. Just nowhere for him to go.
No, he forced Bjorn Golder, though, to go very deep into that chicane, which compromises his exit speed, which could allow Ollie Knight looking up the inside into Murray's corner. But Bjorn Golder, though, does manage to get the traction. So his rear tyres must be in fairly good shape, we're imagining then, for the Holden. And he must be coping with his car fairly well at the moment and have a nice little balance on there. As you mentioned, a relatively low downforce setting due to his straight line speed advantage on Ollie Knight, because Ollie Knight, though, even though in the slipstream, is really not managing to make any gain. And if anything, I think Bjorn Golder pulling away from him out of Hell Corner.
Yeah, he is. He's definitely got some grunt underneath him and been able to push through here a lot better here than Ollie Knight. It is really the tactic to go if you know you're going to be sort of in the upper midfield or that kind of thing. You know you're not really going to be challenging for the win, so it might be better just to trim a little bit of wing out so you can stay ahead of people rather than think that you can overtake others, because of course this circuit is very difficult to do so.
It certainly is. I'm very impressed though with Ollie Knight's recovery drive as well as James Price Harper's, as I was mentioning earlier on. Ollie Knight really has made some gains through the field. He was caught up in an incident earlier on, of course, spun off on lap 1 and then get caught up with a bit of impact on lap 2 as well. But Ollie Knight, though, really has made gains, and as you mentioned earlier on, Nick, he's just outside of a podium position onto that fabulous helicopter shot again, looking down at the Scuderia Uccello and the Junior Motorsports cars very close into the edges. Look at this lot. Fantastic driving between these two. They really are demonstrating its close quarters, and that they're certainly not going to give each other an inch on the circuit. So heading in towards the dipper once again.
He's gone deep there.
And he has. That's going to allow Ollie Knight to take the advantage through Forest Elbow and heading onto the Conrod Straight once again. Ollie Knight and Bjorn Golder side by side. Look at this. Inches between the two. Heading in towards the... oh dear, I was going to say he pops back into slipstream as well. I really thought he'd be able to take advantage of the slipstream there. But as we mentioned, Bjorn Golder has certainly got a straight line advantage on lap 13 out of 30 at the moment, and manages to maintain the position ahead of him. Really wasn't expecting that. I thought, given his run out of the dipper and through the Forest Elbow, that Knight would be able to take advantage of it. But it doesn't appear that he was able to do so, or he wasn't able to do so, rather.
Yeah, it looked like game over, really, from there, but it's, you know, status quo. Maybe Ollie Knight missed a gear shift or something. That would probably explain why he suddenly lost all that power.
He does. He's got a bit of a gap now, has Bjorn got about a half a second gap, or there and thereabouts. Odell very close behind as well, so not too far out of contention is Odell. And don't forget about Joe Nathan, who's close up ahead of this lot as well. But it's very, very close quarters between... Sorry, not Joe Nathan, rather. Is that Joe Nathan or does Sam Menyengo?
I think it is Joe Nathan who is in third position now, so they can see the podium positions staring down at them.
They can, so we'll have a look then. Sam Harani currently leads it, 12 laps completed, ahead of Lee Harrison then, 20 seconds ahead of Lee Harrison. It is Joe Nathan, as you mentioned, in third position, 3.8 seconds back of second position Harrison. Bjorn Golder in fourth, as we can see on screen, looking at currently. Ollie Knight in fifth, Odell currently in sixth, April Dillon in seventh, Tom Bellingham in eighth, and Thomas Kowalski there, the Team Atom driver, clipped the wall, losing a front bumper as well. The number 44, his debut race in the V8 Australicars Championship is a bit of a tough one, but he'll be back to fight another day, I'm sure. And looking there at Harani, he's got a bit of a dent in his the right-hand side of his car, so he might have had a bit of an impact with the wall there. That's a bit of a cause for concern. But the current drivers who are out of the race, just Ben Haddleton of the Fire Cruiser Racing Team in the Ford, and also, as we mentioned earlier on, Jamie Hunt currently out of the race as well. A terrible shame there for the Young Offenders team, but he'll no doubt be back in the later part of the season. Hopefully we'll see him for Adelaide in a couple of weeks' time, and also for, of course, for Albert Park later on in the season as well. Albert Park, I'm really looking forward to that race, and especially Adelaide as well. It'd be nice to take a trip, of course, over to that part of the world, or that part of Australia, rather, I should say. But anyway, looking back at the on-track action, battle for fourth position still ensuing onwards. Bjorn Golder still harassing, or being harassed, rather, I should say, by Ollie Knight. Then heading in towards the chase once again. Ollie Knight looking to get up the inside of Bjorn Golder into the braking zone, but can't quite manage it. Through the chicane they go once again. Pit stop window going to be opening on the next lap, and we're expecting drivers to be coming into the pit lane. No one comes in this time round, but Ollie Knight up the inside into the Murray's corner. Will he manage to make the move stick? Yes, he will, but he goes a bit deep. Bjorn Golder, though, cuts back up the inside and manages to retake the position. Straight back at him goes Bjorn Golder on Ollie Knight, so he's certainly demonstrating that he is not going to take things lying down at the moment.
Certainly not. That would look like he had the position finally taken away, Ollie Knight, but he just went too deep in there. And Bjorn Golder sort of, and you can see him there, he brakes early, so anticipated what Ollie Knight was going to do, hoping that he would make a mistake. He did indeed so, and he just cuts back underneath and hangs on to his position. That's some very intelligent driving there from Bjorn Golder. Very, very impressive race.
Yeah, very quickly. Oh no, as we say that.
He's in the wall.
Yeah. Commentator's curse strikes again. That's going to allow Odell surely to take advantage of it. No, he doesn't. Just loses the one position. Oh no, he does lose two positions as Alex Odell up the inside, maybe. Oh dear, very close between these two. Goodness gracious me. As I go high pitch once again. Bjorn Golder there defending from Alex Odell. The commentator's curse, as I mentioned, strikes again, and Golder just spun up his rear wheels coming through Quarry Bend and having to defend from Odell, and that allows Ollie Knight to have a bit of a breather in fourth position currently on circuit.
It isn't. Oh, look at that Bacoa vehicle. Wondering how it's not fallen over the angle that it's parked there.
It is at a very promiscuous angle there, so it's certainly managing to cope with the elevation changes better than some of the drivers out there on circuit today. But everyone displaying a very professional race and driving very, very well on circuit. We've not really seen that many sort of crashes on track, just a couple of misjudgments from a few people, but everything seemingly okay at the moment.
Yeah, we had a nice bit of a nice shot there of the S's of the downhill corners, and it's also some nice exposure time for WTF1, excellent website, you should all go visit. But now we are on board with Alex Odell, who's now going to be after Bjorn Golder's place. So it looks like Ollie Knight has just... Oh, there's a yellow flag out there. Who's that for?
I'm not entirely sure, but the pit window opening on this lap 15 out of 30. We're expecting drivers to be coming in fairly shortly at the moment. Anyway, as you mentioned there, yellow flag on screen. Can't currently see what the incident is being caused by, or why the yellow flag is being caused. As it goes back to green, so it was only a minor incident, and the race continues onwards as per normal. It wasn't a full cautioning yellow, I think. It was just a corner yellow, so drivers, of course, having to slow down. That was why...
Oh, maybe it was for Dave, yeah.
Morley, his bad luck continues. The Monolith Motorsports 149. Here we are then on board then with the driver going through the S's into the dipper and just outbrakes it. Oh, clouds the barrier very, very hard there. And that's some terminal damage. He's running without his front bumper as well into the chase. Oh my goodness gracious me. I really thought he might clout the wall there, but the gravel trap's coming to his aid.
Yeah, that's why we have
it. Exactly. They really do slow drivers down. So the first driver to pit then, Tom White of the Junior Motorsport team, number 25 into the pit lane from 10th position. He goes in for a set of boots and maybe a dash more fuel, as well as Odell challenging for 5th position from Bjorn Golder then. Number 10 versus number 23, who we're currently on board with, going towards the outside in towards the cutting, and I don't think he's going to be able to make his way through there unless Golder goes deep, which he does. And is Odell going to be able to get the traction out of there? No, he's not, as Bjorn Golder takes the inside line. It'll be very, very close between these two. Goodness gracious me, it's surely he's only one at a time through there. I can't believe it's this close with you, this section of the track. Downhill into the left-hander, and is Odell going to get ahead? Yes, he is! Fantastic! Oh my goodness gracious me! I really thought they might come to blows through there, but demonstrating the professionality of the drivers in this series, and also of the caliber of the racers as well. So really is close quarters between those two. The Scuderia Ecello driver Bjorn Golder there goes down another position into 6th position now, so shame for him, but needless to say, Alex Odell is demonstrating he's got the pace even on worn tyres ahead of Bjorn Golder, so maybe Golder's tyres going off at this stage in the race. Of course, it's pushed them very hard to stay ahead of Ollie Knight. That might be coming into factor as well. He'll also have to be wary of the driver behind him, of course, as well. I believe that is Rob Covey. It is indeed. Sorry, it might be April Dillon, in fact. It's one of the Howler racing cars, one of the two, going through the chase, and he'll have to be aware of one of those. But anyway, going on to lap 16 now, we're expecting drivers to be coming into the pit lane then. So Alex Odell goes towards the left-hand side of the circuit. Is he going to be darting in?
And
no, he's not. So Bjorn Golder then goes in. His tyres have seen the best of it, and he goes into the pit lane, does the Scuderia Ecello driver's brakes glowing red. So he's really pushing the limits of his car. Other drivers in the pit lane now as well. I think that must be the other Junior Motorsports car of, that must be Tom White going in there. April Dillon going in as his teammate, her teammate rather. Of course, Rob Covey goes out of the pit lane. Number 21, Ollie Knight, also into the pits, as we mentioned. So it's all action in the pit lane. All drivers stopping for a new set of boots, as is mandatory in this race. And James Price Harper, though, he's going to be gaining some positions. Of course, he stopped earlier on in the race due to his damage on lap 1. I'll be very, very surprised if he can go to the end on that set of tyres. The only driver I haven't seen pit, of course, amongst the leading pit, or the only drivers rather I haven't seen pit, Sam Harani hasn't pitted yet, Lee Harrison as well, and I don't believe Joe Nathan has either. And Alex Odell, of course, up into 4th position. So a cluster of drivers at the top of the field who haven't pitted for tyres yet. We'll expect them to do so later on. But here's the overtake then. Do you want to take us through this one, Nick, into the S's?
Well, it's just amazing. It was just looked like Odell had his chance, but not really able to capitalise on Bjorn Golder and put his car in the right place. He somehow hang his car around the outside and then going side by side for this very tight and twisty section, and then he just waited until he had the corner, got to the corner where he had the inside line, and just streaked right through.
Certainly did. It was quite the overtake from Odell. Really inspired move and a cracking shot. I watched that one all day, but here's the race leader then, Sam Harani, coming in for his pit stop on lap 16 out of 30, then locking up the brakes, slowing the car down to 37 miles an hour, about 60 kilometres or so, 62 kilometres there and thereabouts. Into the pit lane he comes, and he'll be putting on a new set of boots on his Offenders Holden, and this is someone who hasn't pitted, as I mentioned, the Offenders teammate Lee Harrison, the number 7, the driver who will take the lead of the race rather from Sam Harani, of course, as Harani is yet to pit. Oh, sorry, as Harrison is yet to pit rather, as Harani does so. So here we are then, as also Craig Woolard, I believe that is, coming into the pit as well. So there we are. Harani goes down into 2nd place, and Lee Harrison takes over the lead of the race then, but surely not for long. We're expecting Harrison to pit maybe in the later stages of the race, perhaps just displaying that he's got a bit of more grip than you might expect on his tyres at the moment. So maybe he's preserved them after Jamie Hunt, his battle with Jamie Hunt, of course, earlier on allowed him to cool down his pace a bit. And Tom Bellingham as well taking advantage. He hasn't pitted yet as well. He's up into 5th position due to not putting a new set of boots on his Independables Holden.
Yeah, and it's quite surprising really that we haven't seen a few more cars pit, because you don't really want to leave it too long, otherwise you sort of spend too much time on two worn tyres, and although your tyres are brand spanking new at the end, you have too many people to overtake. So we'll see if anyone comes in the next lap. It's probably the final lap to make a sensible planned on-stop, and if they don't come in, then that might allow us to who's trying to go all the way to the end. But now we have April Dillon here in the back of Bjorn Golder. Harrison here, of course, leading. Doesn't seem to be suffering too much from tyre wear. His car seems to be generally very well behaved and doesn't seem to be struggling for any front grip at all. So maybe he could be one who's going to go all the way to the end. That would be quite the
spectacle. I couldn't imagine he'd be able to do so, locking the outside front in towards the dipper again and coming in towards the Forest Elbow. But it would be quite the spectacle if he could manage to go to the end on that set of tyres on that Holden as well. 30 laps, a good 2-minute lap there and thereabouts, or if not a bit longer. About 170 miles an hour you're touching, of course, going along this straight as well. And I'd be very, very surprised if he's able to do so on one set of tyres. Surely his tyres must be starting to wear quite a bit by now, because other drivers, of course, struggling with grip at this stage in the race and have already pitted for a new set of boots as well, and they were struggling then. And can you imagine what the state of Harrison's tyres would be like if he did go to the end? So on lap 17 he doesn't go into the pit lane. Is this an indication then that the number 7 Lee Harrison is going to go all the way to the end? Well, keep an eye on it, Nick, because that could be quite a development as the battle between that is Bjorn Golder and April Dillon there, the number 9, sorry, in 9th position, the number 315 rather, of the Howler Racing team, are very close on circuit as Craig Woolard there going a bit wide through the dipper, but it's April Dillon then who's very close and in the slipstream of Bjorn Golder. Bjorn Golder though has got some great straight line speed. Has April Dillon though got something in the bag to be able to take the move and maybe up the inside in towards the chase? She's got the slipstream and is looking to make a move. Is she going to be able to bide her time and go in towards the chase? Yes, she does. Goes towards the outside and in towards the left right chicane. Oh no, just mistimes her braking and goes into the back then of Bjorn Golder, who sends him going round. And is April Dillon going to do the sporting thing? Yes, she does. So April Dillon there slows down and displaying good craftsmanship from the Howler Racing driver, despite being a newcomer to the championship, as James Price Harper goes into the pit lane. So he managed to go a few more laps on his tyres, of course, due to stopping earlier on in the race, as I believe that's Joe Nathan exiting the pit lane now, as well as one of the Independables cars in the pits as well. Anyway, mentioning that, of course, yes, April Dillon, a newcomer to the championship, but she's displaying some very good racecraft and a demonstration that she's read the rule book before taking to the circuit, which is always nice to see.
It is indeed. I think that is Tom Benham coming out of the pits. So Tom White, haven't seen him in a little while, but he's still there in 10th position. Just having a quiet little race, not really making any mistakes, although not really setting the lap charts alight either. But Tom White's a very good, consistent racing driver. He does sort of suffer in comparison to RlyR, who is one of the fastest drivers in the series, but he's just doing a solid job here. He's come out here. Tom Bellingham, just, in fact, no, it's James Price Harper, I believe. So this is going to be for 9th position. See if what happens here.
He does just touch the wall very, very slightly there. But as you mentioned there, Tom White, very consistent driver. I reckon he'd be quite good in a good old longer endurance race than the hour-long we're having here. Of course, we have the Gears races with the Really Rubbish Racing crew. So I should imagine that Tom White is probably one of the best endurance drivers in the series, one would imagine.
Yeah, it does seem to be his strengths lie in that particular department rather than the sprint races. So here we have James Price Harper, just a little unsteady there, but of course that will be the suspension. You can't really set up your car perfectly here. There's always going to be part of the circuit where the car is going to suffer a little bit, whether it's through the twisty corners or the tight straight or in the flat bits or the elevation changes. But James Price Harper, of course, got some new boots on his car there, and April Dillon has come back up to challenge Bjorn Golder now for 5th position. Not quite close enough. Of course, she's going to be a little more circumspect due to the incident lap before where she tapped out and had to wait up for him. But maybe it's only really
it's Bjorn Golder there going deep through the chicane. Yes. Anyway, and that allows April Dillon to get very close behind Bjorn Golder then in towards Murray's corner once again. Don't think Dillon will be able to launch a move. No, she won't. Buys her time very nicely. And I think, although Bjorn Golder does get a bit of a torrid exit out of there, heading in towards Hell Corner once again, and on to lap 19 for these guys then. In towards Hell Corner again. Incidentally, Hell Corner was named Hell Corner when the circuit opened originally in the 1940s, there was a tree stump on the outside of that corner, and it was thought that due to motorcycle racing that originally took place at the circuit, it was thought that due to motorcycle racing, if anyone hit that tree stump, they would of course sadly pass away from their injuries, and then they would obviously be plunged into the depths of hell, hence Hell Corner. That's how it got its nickname, just in case anyone was wondering. So a bit of trivia there. Anyway, on board with April Dillon, getting back to things, Howler Racing driver, number 315, going in towards turn 4 into the cutting. Again, this is a great part of the track. I really do love this, because it does show how much traction you've got from your car. And as someone who hasn't got traction, is Bjorn Golder spinning round there. The number 10 goes off there, out of there, spins it back round, does a 180, a boot full of power, and gets things back heading the right direction, and that allows April Dillon to go up a position into 5th then, as he's challenged now rather.
Well, Bellingham's on
Walker's going to be very far behind him as well. So Bjorn Golder down into 8th position, with Pete Walker currently behind him in 9th, and Tom Bellingham, of course, ahead of them in 7th. And don't forget about James Price Harper as well. His pace before the pit stop, or his pit stop rather, was very, very strong, and demonstrating that despite a bit of suspension damage, his car and his driving as well, he's managed to adapt to the car's sort of faults, as it were, through no fault of his own, of course, that incident on lap 1, and he's managed to adapt to the car and adapt his driving style very nicely. And he's got some good pace behind him of that Holden. But Lee Harrison then, the number 7, out in front comfortably ahead of Sam Hirani, but his lap times beginning to drop off with 10 laps to go, but he's got quite an advantage over Hirani. Of course, Hirani's pit stop was about a good 30 seconds, 40-second pit stop, and he's got quite the advantage over Hirani, but Hirani's pace is blistering in these latter stages of the race with 10 laps to go, as I said, and that's surely he's going to ease away at his advantage at the moment. Is Hirani on Harrison?
Yeah, Harrison's kind of backed himself into corner now. Of course, he was second, he didn't pit, so now he's inherited the lead. He can't really pit now, otherwise he might even fall further behind and lose the second position he had before. But of course, he might lose all of his tyre life and plunge down the order. Of course, these tyres can go off very, very quickly, and you're suddenly losing 6-7 seconds left, particularly around a very long circuit like this. So I don't know if he's going to be able to hold on to the lead, and he might not even benefit from this strategy, but you know, we're all here to win, and so if that's the only way you can do it, you might as well roll the dice and see what you can get out.
So it's quite the gamble that Lee Harrison is taking. We saw the second place man currently, Sam Hirani, who was leading the race before the pit stop window came into place. We saw him leading the race, and of course in race 2 in Eastern Creek, as I mentioned earlier on, he went the distance at Eastern Creek and decided not to pit, and he lost out on the it was race 1 rather at Eastern Creek. He lost out on the final lap to Ollie Knight, who had superior pace at that stage in the race, and Sam Hirani there just in the background of shot. He's learned from his mistakes, decided that it's the better of two or the lesser of two evils to pit and lose a bit of time, and of course have pace in the latter stages of the race. And Lee Harrison going for a bit of a gamble, and obviously decided that his testing prior to the event was quite sufficient enough to be able to warrant not pitting rather before the end of the race, as Sam Hirani, demonstrative of his pace at the moment, he just had a 2-minute.7 second lap, the fastest lap currently of the race, getting closer to qualifying times, Nick.
Yeah, less than 2 seconds, which on a 2-minute lap is really quite impressive.
Especially on full, yeah, I was going to say fuel's coming down, especially on larger tanks of fuel than they'll have had in qualifying as well. So that's something to take into account as the cars come uphill and through the mountain once again. The Mount Panorama circuit, steeped with history, of course. And quite the event to watch as well. Campbell Wallace just ahead of Harrison, who is currently coming up to lap his Harrison at the moment. Campbell Wallace had a bit of a quiet race, of course, had an impact into turn 3. Under pressure from James Price Harper. Look at this, he's really struggling with traction. James Price Harper, though, takes advantage in towards Murray's corner, breaking in towards the left-hander. Can he manage to make the move stick? Yes, he can, into the left-hander, the 90-degree left-hander, second gear through there, and James Price Harper displaying that he really has got the pace at these latter stages of the race. 9 laps now remaining for these guys, or onto the 9th lap remaining rather for them. Lap 21 out of 30 they go onto, and don't forget, of course, about the driver behind them, of course, Tom White as well of the Junior Motorsports Cam. He'll be very, very close behind, but Bjorn Golden not taking things lying down, closes towards the outside of the slipstream in towards Quarry Bend once again, on board then, and coming into the corner. Look at this, side by side between these two, number 20 and number 78 going hammer and Tom between there is Bjorn Golden. He's going to have the inside line rather in towards the uphill left-hander, but James Price Harper firmly shuts the door and cuts across the nose of the number 10 in towards the uphill left-handed section of the cutting once again through Griffin's Mount and Reed Park, and James Price-Harper then just does keep it ahead of the number 10 of Bjorn Golder, and that allows Tom White to get very, very close behind the number 10.
Getting ever closer on Tom White. Struggling on this second race. Of course, all the tyres are made identically, but some drivers can swear that a different set of tyres can behave differently to the one he just took off. And now Tom White is right at the back of him. He's climbing all over the rear bumper of Bjorn Golden. Surely it's only a matter of time before he has a little look into the...
Oh dear, locking the outside front there as Golder. Is he going to go a bit deep through it? No, he manages to gather it up, but Tom White there got superior traction, and he really did have the magnets on going through that section. And Tom White then side by side through the Forest Elbow onto the Conrod straight once again. He is, and there we go. So Bjorn Golder then got the superlative straight line speed at the moment, but Tom White then ducking back into the slipstream. Is he going to launch a move up the outside? Maybe. No, not quite close enough. Bjorn Golder then lives to fight another day on the 22nd lap to the leaders. Lee Harrison currently out in front, 21 laps completed, just 1.5 seconds to Sam Harani out in front at the moment. The gap though has come down significantly over the past few laps.
And Harrison now is going to have his mirrors full of Harani weaving about.
There it is, look.
Not the sight you want to see. Sam Harani is a very formidable racer. Look at him, just all that. Look how much speed he's taking through those corners. Harrison must be, well, if he isn't intimidated, then he's much stronger
green. He must
man
be
than I
an
am.
Incredible Hulk behind him or something along the lines. Through the Forest Elbow they go once again. Then Lee Harrison, the Spider-Man livery got that would be quite apt really with Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk on track, wouldn't it? Anyway, going down the Conrod straight, heading in towards the chase once again. The reigning Really Rubbish Racing champion Sam Harani looking out to try and reclaim the lead up the inside in towards the chase, side by side between these two. Is he going to be able to make the move? In towards the chase once again. Sam Harani though, oh no! Bit of contact between the two through the chicane, and Sam Harani there gets a bit of a love tap and a dent on the left side of his door then, but lives to fight another day. Lee Harrison there, I think, just must have been out braking himself and struggling of course with tyre wear, as we know, so maybe he just thought he had a bit more grip going into that corner than he would have imagined, and here we are then on board with Sam Harani. So I don't think it was just a racing incident between the two. So it was just a case of Harrison trying not to succumb to the pressure of Harani and trying not to outbrake himself as much as he did there. But anyway, they're they're very close on circuit rather, I should say, coming down the mountain straight in towards Quarry once again. He goes toward the outside, does Harani, and heading in towards the uphill left-hander, or right-hander rather, I should say. They're very, very close on circuit. The offenders and the defenders driver, they are absolutely bumper to bumper. Uphill then in towards the cutting once again, number 7 and the number 1. Goodness gracious me, I'm going to have to catch my breath in a minute. On lap 23 out of 37 laps remaining for these guys on the in the race rather at the moment. And I think Sam Harani's just going to have to bide his time. He's not going to find a way through here. He'll be inspired if he can. We saw Odell defying the laws of gravity and defying the laws of physics as well, going through there earlier on in the race and making a great move on Bjorn Golder. But I'll be very surprised if Sam Harani can make such a move. But he's got a great run coming through there in towards the Yeses. And Lee Harrison, though, just positioning his car very, very nicely as the number 7, and just displaying that despite not having the pace and locking the cars and scraping the tarmac again, that he's very, very good at his defensive driving and not succumbing to the pressure from Harani. Look, you can see there the smoke coming off of Harrison's car, rather, that Harani has got such a good balance on that Holden at the moment. Then in the slipstream is Harani onto the mountain straight once again, heading in towards the chase. So they're side by side there, or they're going to be rather, as they come down in towards the chase once more for the 23rd time. 7 laps remaining of the Grand Prix. Is Harani going to reclaim the lead of the race? I think he might do. Up the inside, side by side through there, flat out right-hander in towards there, and Harrison goes very deep on the brakes. Goodness gracious me, I thought we were going to see a repeat of the last lap, but Harrison though does manage to carry on and manages to retain the lead. But how long for, as Harani goes towards the outside in towards Murray's corner? He has. I think he might try and get the undercut. Or does he? Because he's got such great traction out of there that he's going to launch a move up the inside into Hell Corner. Side by side on the pit straight though between these two. And he goes towards the inside. Does he manage to outbrake him? No, he doesn't. Harrison though defending. Look at this. But he's going to get such a poor exit. Harani though takes the lead. Fantastic. On lap 24, Sam Harani reclaims the lead. Just the reigning Really Rubbish Racing champion over Lee Harrison. Fantastic.
Wow, valiant there defence by Lee Harrison. Really had no right to still be in first position after 2 laps under attack by Sam Harani, but finally succumbs to pressure. Now he's got to hold on and see if he can still remain in second position. Oh, he just losing near the end there a bit. And of course, it's too late for him to pit, but of course, there's still quite a few laps left in the race. Here's a replay of that overtake for the lead. Harani got a much better line out there, but Harrison braking late, almost motorcycle style defending there, in which you're going to be trying to aim to be slowest on the apex to give the other guy the least possible chance of passing. But Pirani was a bit wise to it and just slightly taps his way through here. And Manuel de Samaniego in 12 now is battling with, is this Campbell Wallace?
Campbell Wallace as well. So they're not having, well, they're battling for the final points position actually. So, Campbell Wallace really pushing the track limits there and some. The number 64, who, of course, as we saw, had a bit of an impact with the wall outside of Quarry Bend on lap 1, and that really did ruin his chances. He had to pit for damage later on in the race. But Manuel de Samaniego, he's very, very close on circuit to... these two getting closer and closer on circuit, as I mentioned, battling for just 1 point, but battling as I say that, Campbell Wallace though goes into the wall through the dipper and through the forest elbow again. But as I mentioned, they're battling for the final points position, but you'd think they were going for a race victory. April Dillon though, in 5th position, the number 315, she has got Joe Nathan just behind her as well.
Yeah, Tom Kowalski's less than we saw him the damage earlier, but he didn't give up. He's pitted and decided to get a bit more experience under his belt. But Joe Nathan of the other Valor racing car, of course, we just saw Manuel de Samaniego there, trying to hold on to 12th position ahead of Campbell Wallace. So edging slightly closer, Ableton keeping things under control, but you can see the tyre life is starting to go a little bit, sliding around there a bit at the front. Of course, these front engine cars, a lot of the weight is there at the front, but they get a lot of punishment now. Obviously, it's still rear-wheel drive, so kind of balances it out a bit. But Sam Hirani here,
he is streaking away in second and a half, maybe even 2 seconds before the end of this lap, I should imagine. Sam Hirani, the advantage he'll have over Lee Harrison. Harrison, if he pitted now, it would be catastrophic for his race chances. So I really do think that staying out and just limping home on the what he must have of tyres, of his tyres left, we might even see a blowout if he does get towards the lower part of his tyre life, because of course the car's tyres rather get down to the canvas, and then that can really be game over. But I shouldn't imagine it will get down to that stage. Lee Harrison though very mathematical in his method of thinking, so I should imagine that he's probably timed it right and will have just enough tyre life to get towards the end of the race. But I don't think fuel usage we're going to see as a bit of a factor. We saw drivers taking on a bit of fuel in their pit stops, and I think they'll have taken on just about enough to get to the end of the race and just to finish the completion, the completion lap, the parade lap rather, I should say, afterwards as well. There's Joe Nathan getting very sideways in towards Quarry Bend, number 26, and he's got just gotten past rather Tom Kowalski. Of course, as you mentioned, Tom Kowalski not had the easiest of debuts, has the driver at the moment, but a shame for him, and I'm sure we'll see him further up the order in the late stages. Oh dear, no, his bad run continues. The number 78 spins round and Bjorn Gold, yeah, very close. Nothing else gets selected there as James Bryce Harper with Bjorn Gold got a dent on his right hand side of his car, going through the Quarry Bend then, and it wasn't even on the power then, I don't think, or very marginally if he was, and very lucky not to get collected there. We always see Bjorn Gold go through the shot there. Goodness gracious, that was very close. I should imagine James Bryce Harper probably need a new set of underwear after that one. Anyway, crossing back to the action on circuit, James Bryce Harper though, he's on the recovery run once again. And his bad luck continues, and I'm sure his luck must be able to, he must be in for a good race surely at some point in the future. Oh dear, as someone who's not having a good race, that's Campbell Wallace. Oh, he is, goodness gracious me. What an impact there for Campbell Wallace, number 64, clouted the wall there, goodness gracious. I do hope he's all right after that, number 64 for the Kaibitsu racing team. Here we are then, we see him coming out of the chase then, and just gets very eager on the power, and of course of the circuit. Goodness, dear, buckle up, there's nothing you can do, they're just a passenger in the instant there. On board then with James Bryce Harper, who we might see the instant from his point of view. So here we are then, there's, I believe, one of the drivers just ahead of him. Is that Campbell Wallace? No, it might not be. So here we are then, go. So maybe he had a bit of an incident going through there as well. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Sorry, we're crossing back to the live action now. I apologise. I thought that was a replay then. Apologies. Sorry.
Yeah.
Dear oh dear. Anyway, it reminds me of an old incident with Murray Walker many moons ago. Anyway, getting back to the action. Number 78, we're looking at James Bryce Harper, currently looking at on the screen. Just behind Bjorn Golder, of course, who just avoided him with an incident. 4 laps now remaining of the race. The Bathurst Hour of Power continues on. Sam Hirani comfortably out in front, ahead of Lee Harrison of the Defenders, who is yet to pit and probably will not do so before the race end. So I think Lee Harrison is going to defy the laws of physics and will go to the end of the race without pitting rather, for a new set of boots. That'll be quite an inspired move there, Nick.
Yeah, certainly defying many things including my criticism if he manages to hang on second position. So here is Bryce Harper still inching up there. He's struggling a little bit now. Of course, we're coming to the very end of the race, and the nature of this circuit with the camber, getting a little squiggly out there, but the nature circuit with the very many off-camber turns, he's just tapping there. So it's very easy to unsettle the car, and of course, it's quite a confident circuit as we have remarked on before. So once he starts to lose that confidence, he actually starts to drive even worse, but he's still keeping it on a straight and narrow. Hasn't hit the wall or this lap.
You think it's only a matter of time there, Nick? What confidence do you have? Anyway, I should imagine you do. James Bryce Harper, though, he did pit a few laps later, though, than the drivers around him, so he does got a bit more tyre life, one would imagine, if he hasn't pushed his tyres too hard. Bjorn Golder, though, going very, very unusual line into the dipper there, and that, I think, is slowing his apex speed down somewhat, and that's allowing Bryce Harper, though, who's got a great exit out of there, and will be in the slipstream of Bjorn Golder, then, to get into the, as I mentioned, into the draft, onto the Conrod straight once again. So, it's going to be Bjorn Golder and James Bryce Harper, then, battling for the position. And I don't think Bryce Harper's going to find a way this time around. So maybe the next lap. So Bryce Harper just lining up a move and probably thinking, where can I go from here? If Bjorn Golder's going to take that line on that lap, is going to take it on the next lap? And where can I position my car to get past of the Scuderia Uccello driver? That's probably what Harrison will be thinking. Will Bryce Harper be thinking about at this stage in the race? He's a very patient driver, very consistent driver is Bryce Harper as well, barring incidents, of course. We haven't really seen his consistency shine on through due to a number of incidents in the championship so far, but I'm sure, as I mentioned earlier on in the race, we'll see him shine and we'll see his pace really come to the front in the latter part of the season. Anyway then, so here's James Bryce Harper very, very close to Bjorn Golder, then going down the mountain straight, heading towards Quarry Bend for the 27th time. Just 3 laps remaining of the race. Sam Hirani currently leading it, as we mentioned. He's very close through there, the uphill right-hander. They're side by side coming through there in towards the cutting once again. Is James Bryce Harper going to make an inspired move up the outside? He'll be very lucky to be able to do so. Spit a flame from his exhaust and doesn't manage to do so, but he's got so much good traction out of there. Bjorn Golder, though, he's really happy to work hard and drive defensively, but not as hard as Bryce Harper as we cut across again to that lovely, lovely shot. I can look at this all day. On board then, on board with the helicopter, rather, I should say, coming in towards the S's once again, the downhill part of the sector of this section, rather, of the circuit. And James Harper then goes towards the outside of the Scuderia Uccello car. They're very, very close on circuit now. Bjorn Golder, though, doesn't take his normal line through there as he's defending so much with James Bryce Harper. Heading in towards the Forest Elbow, they'll be in a couple of minutes' time. So no, he does take the normal line through there, I apologise. But it's such an unusual line that Bjorn Golder's taking there. Surely it must be compromising his exit. I think what he's trying to do, as you mentioned with motorcycle defending earlier on, Nick, is trying to square off the corner as a motorcycle rider would, and is trying to defend his line there and slow Bryce Harper down on the apex and compromise his exit speed. But I think what he's doing there is compromising his own exit speed more so than anything, really.
Yeah, although we have seen he's got quite a lot of straight line speed he can rely on. Of course, James Bryce Harper's kind of worked out what Bjorn Golder is doing there, because we can see he's doing the exact opposite. He's taken a very early exit to try and maximise his straight line speed down the straight. Of course, not really anything he can do about it. You can see there, actually, James Bryce Harper's rear wing is slightly askew, and that's probably what's giving him all sorts of handling problems. You can see just there the left hand, or the right, depending on which way you're looking at it, just slightly askew left there. So certain corners, that'll probably give him a bit of an advantage, like that crazy Benson car back in the 80s with that really weird rear wing that's shaped kind of like a reverse V. But he's now on the back of him, so he can get through the fast corners onto the back of him, but really just no way by Bjorn Golder onto the straights. And of course that is traditionally where you would overtake at the very end. So it's going to take a very brave move, or maybe a mistake from Bjorn Golder.
Should also mention that Campbell Wallace has now retired from the race. We saw him earlier on. We saw him go over the barrier, rather. I apologise. I was thinking of Neil Crawford, rather, who I'm getting into two Kaibitsu racing cars confused. Anyway, crossing back to it, so just 2 laps remaining now of the race, and he's really hotting up towards the end. The battle for position at the moment between James Bryce Harper and Bjorn Golder ensues onwards then. Goodness gracious, I cannot believe the action we're seeing here. It hasn't stopped. I'm going to have to get my breath back after this one. Have to go for some therapy or something like that. Goodness gracious, as James Price Harper there getting very greedy on the curb and very, very sideways out of there as well. So really displaying that he's got the grip at the latter stages of the race. His tyres 3 laps younger than Bjorn Gulder. Oh, clamps the wall there in towards the dipper once again. And Bjorn Gulder though has to go very deep into there. Bit of contact between the two and a bit of rubbing between the two there. James Price Harper sensibly gives the position back, of course. Didn't really gain that much of an advantage.
I was going to say that would have been the cheekiest overtake ever.
Worry about that one, and Price Harper might have got a slap on his wrist, but he manages to be very sensible and give the place back. But he's got only one more lap to do so, or he will have only one more lap to do so fairly shortly as well, as Sam Hirani will be coming on to the final lap in just a few moments, one would expect.
Yeah, really dominant display there from Sam Hirani. He's so far ahead, even though he came out in second position. He just took his time, didn't really do any really stupid moves. We saw the fantastic battle between him. James Price Harper having another little look, and is he going to try and outbrake or no?
I saw the brakes locking there. I thought that might have been straight on into turn one, but Price Harper thought the better of it. But here's the battle.
I didn't mean to be so negative saying chicken out. Maybe
somebody who is confident on the brakes is Pete Walker. Slided up the inside of Craig Woolard then of the Eiffel Motorsports car. Not battling for points positions of these guys, but they're very, very close on circuit. Goodness gracious me. Battling, as I mentioned, just for 14th place. But like I said earlier on, they're battling like it's a race victory, the number 86. And Pete Walker just ahead of them as well. Goodness gracious.
Every position might not count for points, but it certainly does count for honour amongst all these very competitive but also very good friends. We have to point out these, you know, there's no malice really in his rival.
No, so on to the final lap then now comes Sam Hirani, the reigning Really Rubbish Racing champion, starts the last one out of 30, and we'll wait for him to cross the line in a little under 2 minutes or so time. Just to mention also about the drivers who've made some good positions. Rob Covey there up 6 positions further down in 13th place. Pete Walker also up 6 as well from his Torrey qualifying. Harrison up 3 as well, and Knight down 1 from his original grid slot of 2nd. So it's been a mixed race, of course, for many drivers, and relatively positive for others, as Craig Woolard there clips the wall. A yellow flag on screen, that's why, no, dear. Oh, Bjorn Golden, what a shame for the Scuderia Ricciello driver. Really thought he'd be defending his position from James Price Harper. I don't think there was an incident there between the two, although we might see that, of course. But we'll wait and see a replay to make a judgment on that. Here we are then on board Price Harper. Maybe it was a bit of an incident between the two, or was it? No, it was Bjorn. It was that strange, unusual line into the dipper there that caused Bjorn Golder to lose traction on the. It was a very strange incident because he sort of swung. He got the oversteer there, and then the car gripped and he swung off to the right-hand side of the circuit, which is very, very strange. But Bjorn, the
same line that you've done many times when you're desperate not to make a mistake, and of course that ends up with you making the mistake.
It certainly does. I've been caught out many a time in some racing beforehand. Not even in fact on virtual racing, of course. In real racing as well, I was caught out napping by taking the same line in an kart endurance race last year. It wasn't a pretty sight. Anyway, getting back to the action, Sam Hirani then, the reigning Really Rubbish Racing champion, is coming round the final series of corner. He's on the Conrod Straight rather for the final time in towards the chase, and he's going to claim another race victory for the offenders, and bringing his victory tally up to a considerable 2 or 3 now in the championship. So great to see there. Great run from Hirani, took the victory fair and square. Great overtake in the latter stages of the race from Lee Harrison. But Sam Hirani then rounds the final corner here at Mount Panorama, and he's going to come across the line. Sam Hirani wins the race at Mount Panorama. Great move from him. Great race from him. And Harrison, they're going to. Oh no, he's getting very sideways out of there. Is he going to be able to hold on? No, he's not. He spins it round and into the barrier. He's into the barrier. Oh no, what a torrid twist of fate for Lee Harrison there. And he's going to not finish the race, I don't believe. No, he's not. So that's going to promote Alex O'Dell up. It is up into 3rd position. Alex O'Dell of the Power Team, number 23, up into 3rd place. What a surprise for him. The number 23, he'll be staggered by that. April Dillon takes a well-deserved 4th position as well. She was going to finish 5th, but now 4th. Joe Nathan then inherits 4th place, the number 26, and a great race from the Valor Racing team. And James Price Harper then will get 5th by the looks of things as well. But what a cruel twist of fate then for Lee Harrison. His tyre wear really succumbed to the forefront, on the final lap of the final corner, you really couldn't make it up. If anyone said the V8 Australicars is unpredictable, I'll tell you what, look at that final corner and then tell me it's unpredictable. Because it's anything but there, Nick. I think that's safe to say.
You mean it is unpredictable?
It is unpredictable, rather. I think you know what I mean. Oh, it's been too long of a race. 0-2. We've all made a few blunders. Anyway, then the final point scorers come across the line and celebrating in style as well. Oh dear, but Sam Harani, the star of the race, number 1 on his car and number 1 in the race as well. The offender's driver taking it very easy on his slowing down that.
Well, of course, we saw in the RlyR Bathurst endurance race, the race victory came down to a tyre gamble like that, but Lee Harrison obviously not winning and losing out there, not even being classified.
Did, but Sam Harani then, of course, reigned supreme, 40 points in the book for him. Ollie Knight finished second and gets 30. Alex O'Dell finishes third, the number 23 for the power team, takes well home a 24 points. April Dillon in fourth, of course, Joe Nathan in fifth, and then the point scorers who didn't finish in the points, as we mentioned, Pete Walker, Craig Woolard, Thomas Kowalski managed to get a finish on the board despite a bit of a torrid race for the Team Atom and a torrid debut for him, but he'll be looking to improve. And Niall O'Connell, the last of the classified finishers. But Sam Harani then, 100 points on the board for him, and he is now 15 points ahead of Ollie Knight in the championship. April Dillon bumps up to third position, Pete Walker then down into fourth, with James Price Harbour going up the position, and Joe Nathan also going up, as well as Alex O'Dell and Tom Bellingham tumbling down the order.
Yes, and still got quite a few drivers who haven't got the points up, but I'm sure that's going to change for most of them. Tom Kowalski here already into 24th position, having a better result now back than the other 3 drivers behind him. The offender's now leading quite away from Junior Motorsport. That's almost 50 points there, and you have to think that the offenders are in prime position to take that team's championship, which of course will be for Holden in the manufacturers battle.
It certainly will be. The drivers, or the teams rather, yet to score a point. Of course, Fire Crews a racing team rather, the team yet to score a point. But his highlights of the racing: it was a great start from Harani, who moved immediately to defend from Ollie Knight, but it was a harsh braking move from Lee Harrison that sent Manuel de Samaniego into the side of Price Harper, which curtailed his race. Also, Cabell Wallace going round there as well. But Jamie Hunt, he really did have some great pace in the opening stages, as Tom Bellingham was defending, of course, from one of the Valor racing cars there as well. But Ollie Knight made his way back through the field after an incident on lap 1, and then the battles further down the order continued onwards. Dave Morley there defending from one of the drivers further back down the order. But Ollie Knight made his progress through the field, and also we saw Tom Bellingham there of the Independables car going further off, as Jamie Hunt succumbed to suspension damage going off out of the final corner, almost repeating what Lee Harrison did as well in the latter stages of the race. But here was a great shot we saw, and a great overtake. It was the overtaker of the day for me, Alex O'Dell, managing to get a great position on Bjorn Golder of the Scuderia Cello team. So many highlights to get into this race, and there we saw Tom White also with Bjorn Golder as well, close on circuit. Bjorn Golder, though, of course, succumbed to pressure in the latter stage of the race, but Lee Harrison, he didn't pit for the entirety of the race, and that really came to a forefront with a bit of a harsh defending move there from Sam Harani. Not really his fault, of course, not really that much grip on his tyres, but Sam Harani did eventually reign supreme and managed to get ahead of the number 7 of the defenders. Of course, still part of the N-Teams programme. Here was that move then, going through Hell Corner. It was Sam Harani who just got the supreme exit out of there and on towards the mountain straight, and he got past and retook the lead of the race. Easily was the driver of the day for me there. Nick, who was your driver of the day if you had to vote for one?
Certainly Sam Harani deserves it. Just a brilliant, dominant performance once again from him. Although, of course, James Price Harper definitely won for the best recovery drive.
Certainly was. Anyway, that's it from us. Thank you ever so much for your company. We'll see you next time out at Adelaide for a fantastic race on the street circuit. So look forward to your company then. Thank you ever so much, and we'll catch you next time.